Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside upon further review for this week 3 of the SAC season and the regular season. I'm Eric Dudkevich, better known as Dude, alongside my colleague, the coach, Shannon Griffith. Shannon, back at it again. This is our first venture into the week that was, leading into this coming week with a full schedule of games underneath our belt now. And so, welcome inside and really a busy Friday night for week one. A little bit of surprises out there, but we got to see a good spot of where some of these teams are very early on in this season.
Yeah, there were some good games across the area, and of course, in the Summit Athletic Conference, that there were some good ball games, and maybe not as any overly shocking, games that you really were kind of whoa that shouldn't have happened. But yeah, I think in some respects we got what we thought we were going to get on Friday night, and there are some teams that are fighting through some new head coaches and all the new mix, and that kind of came to fruition Friday night at Homestead.
Of course, Homestead was where we were week one, Friday night, under the lights as Homestead hosted Northrop. The Spartans kind of put that one away early. Got up big in the first half and never really took their foot off the pedal really much, and got a big win. And I don't think we were too surprised in the fact that the Homestead Spartans won. But just your takeaway as you and Brett were in the booth for that game of the week on Friday night.
Well, Homestead came right out and kind of established that they were in control of the game by taking the opening kickoff and marching it down the field for, I think, about an 80 play drive. But, they rushed out to basically a 30-point lead at one point, but then they kind of got lackadaisical and almost let Northrop back in the game. I mean, Northrop had scored, got their first points, got 7 on the board. And then Homestead came right back through another pick, and had Northrop scored there at halftime with them getting the ball coming out in the second half, that could have been one of those games that all of a sudden you flip the momentum and you can't get it back. The other team's got it and they're going away with it. Northrop missed a field goal attempt, and it was kind of from that point on, it was pretty much never in doubt. But I think, Slavin had a pretty decent ball game. He had some
177 yards and 2 touchdowns for Peyton Slavin. Did throw the 2 picks.
Yeah, those were bad picks too. I mean, those weren't, tip ball type of picks. Those were just kind of throwing them into an area, and I call it wish again, hoping type of deal. So
yeah. 132 yards for Brett Fox, who had also added 2 touchdowns. So nice balance there on the between the passing game and the running game for Homestead. And then from the receiving, Mason Auxier, he had 102 yards with the touchdown. So 100-yard night for him. So really across the board, they really looked good on the offensive side of the ball, and really kind of picked up where they left off with with Peyton Slavin kind of leading the way for the Spartans.
Well, the other thing is Leaper, he didn't look out of place. He had, I think, one drop, you could call it, but he finally got a catch later on. Fox, I thought, was pretty solid all night. Now, Homestead's offensive line is probably going to be one of the better ones they've had in a long time. They move the bodies up front pretty well. Of course, you're not going to stop the Hinton kid from Northrop. I mean, he is a man child out there at times. I mean, he makes plays that it doesn't matter how good you block him. He has the ability to get off and run you down. And I thought he was a pretty big bright spot for Northrop's defense that, wasn't all that bad. But they were on the field for so long. That's the one thing that, hurt them. They just couldn't get off the field when they needed to. So, yeah, pretty common night for Homestead. I think Northrop's got a lot of things to work on, especially offensively. They got to get better at the quarterback position, and they got to do a better job up front blocking. I didn't think they really blocked all that well against Homestead. Some of that was Homestead, but some of it was fundamentals.
Yeah, 50-14 was the Homestead win over Northrop. Some other games in the SAC, Snider and Northrop. It came down a battle in the end. Second year in a row where we've really seen this close contest. 20-18, Snider comes out on top. A big defensive stop at the end. That game was pretty interesting as well. 2 touchdowns for Langston Lavelle on the ground before he was thrown out for 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. Kind of a quiet night for Tay Johnson, but he did get into kind of the rotation. Bodie Dickerson, just over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns as well for Northside. Coach, any takeaways from kind of that first experience of the Dickerson and Tay Johnson combination?
I think they'll get better as time goes on. Dickerson showed how good of a quarterback he can be at times because he escaped a couple sacks that Snider had him dead to rights, and he got away. I know there was, I guess, from what I read or heard a little bit, that the unsportsmanlike that Lavelle got were a little bit unwarranted in some respects. I think there was some controversy from there, but the bottom line is, if you're going to be a leader, you can't get thrown out of the game, especially the first game. So that's about the kids adjusting to what's being called on the field, and sometimes that's difficult. But again, bright ball game, went back and forth a little bit there as Northside kind of came on a little bit, but I think Snider put the foot in the ground and established that they're going to be a team that's going to make some noise.
And coming up later on and upon further review, we'll talk with head coach Kurt Tippmann from the Snider Panthers about their win on Friday night and as they look ahead to Carroll. And that leads us to Carroll, Coach, 42-3 win over Bishop Luers on Friday night. I mean, it was an impressive showing for the Chargers.
Yeah, and, I don't think there's anybody better to kind of discuss that with us, and appreciate him coming on tonight. Coach Doug Dinan from Carroll High School is joining us now, and 13th season for you, Doug.
Yeah, absolutely. It flies by. This is my 30th year of coaching high school football, 17 years at Snider, and now 13 years at Carroll. So it flies by.
Yeah, it doesn't seem possible, but pretty big win for you against Bishop Luers on Friday night. I thought, of course, I think your defense is a pretty dominant foe. I think they proved that again on Friday night. What was your kind of takeaway with that aspect?
Well, we started a little slow, both offensively and defensively. Whether that be first game jitters or, the emotion of that game, first game. Emotions are going to be high, and everything that our kids have dealt with through June and July. So it was good to be on the field against another opponent. It was great to see everybody turning up to a higher level. After that slow first quarter start, but I think that there were a lot of bright spots. And as you point out, defensively was probably one of the brightest spots that we had all night long.
Yeah, I have I love this kid plays for you, Dylan Bennett. I mean, if I was still coaching and recruiting, I would definitely try to get that kid on my team, because he made a play on a screen that I saw that was kind of unbelievable, where he was away from it, but he ran it down. And that's the one thing about this kid I noticed right from the get-go. His ability to play sideline to sideline is pretty special.
Yeah, he has tremendous athleticism. He catches the ball extremely well. We see it every day when we go, a short period of ones-on-ones, with our offense and our defense against each other. And I kid you not, I cringe every day when we do it, because, defensive guys are pinning their ears back, and I am blowing the quick whistle. It's like, snap me, blow the whistle. So it's, we've got to curtail everybody on that defensive side. But Dylan plays fast, and he's one guy out of 11, that continually fly to the ball. And second level linebackers, they're very long. They can play sideline to sideline extremely well. And it's right now it's all about playing together. Having great culture. having great energy, having great work ethic, and those things will propel us.
Well, that's going to help you no matter what. Because, I mean, I know you got Jimmy Sullivan now at quarterback. It seemed like he, kind of stepped in and nothing really phased him based upon statistics. But with a young quarterback like that, having a stout defense definitely gives you a lot of help in terms of bringing a young guy along because, he's not having to be dependent on to go out and make the play when you've got a great supporting cast around him.
Yep. And I said that to him right before the game. I said, you don't have to win this game. You just got to get the ball out to playmakers and make good decisions and be sound. Had a couple of turnovers. I think that he forced a post, that wasn't there. The other turnover, interception, he was hit. But those things will change. Those things will improve. And you're exactly right. When you can rely on the defense to play sound, he doesn't have to push the ball. He doesn't have to, make great reads, make great decisions. You just got to distribute the ball and let everybody play.
Sure. Coach, you're now in your 13th season as Carroll's head coach. And you've kind of turned a corner. This program has turned a corner. 90 wins leading into this year, only like 66 in the 12 years before that. Where for you do you think it was where this Carroll program kind of turned that corner and took it to the next step during your tenure here at Carroll?
I remember back in 2010 when our staff took over and we felt that we had to play at a more physical level and we did some things on a daily basis to push us to be more physical, to teach the kids to tackle better, to teach the kids to have physicality on the offensive and defensive line. And I think it has just grown and built from there. And when we went from the NHC to the SAC in 2015, I think that was another jump, against great teams, great speed, great physicality. And we had to grow again, and we had to learn how to play against great athletes, with a lot of talent on the field from every school. And I think the growth has shown and the growth has happened again. So, without question, we're blessed to have great kids, great parents, great administration, great facilities, all those things that help build, help lead, the program where we're at. We've got 165 kids in the program right now. And that's a tribute to everybody in the program, not me. That's a tribute to Carroll High School and the Carroll community for kids wanting to continue to play this great game.
Sure. And, part of that success is brought on a lot of the rivalries. And, of course, another rivalry renewed again on Friday will be against the Snider Panthers when they come to Carroll and play them. I know you and Kurt Tippmann were on the staff together at Snider for many years. Talk a little bit about that rivalry and really what that's kind of become and really the rivalries that you and Carroll are trying to create and the success you're finding in the SAC since joining that league.
Well, there's multiple rivalries within that conference, and our conference is a strong conference. We'll probably talk about playing 9 games this year and moving on to 2 teams out of conference later on. But the rivalry that we have with Snider, is due to the fact that they're a tremendous football tradition, tremendous football program, and you always want to try and compete and continue to grow, to be at those levels. The same as for Homestead and Bishop Dwenger and Bishop Luers, tremendous football programs. And what we try to do is emulate what great teams are doing and continue to build a culture to where our kids want to compete, want to be better. And the tradition with Snider, without question happens a little bit because of the fact that, I coached at Snider for 17 years and coached alongside all those guys. And it becomes natural, that you want to compete against each other at a high level.
So, hey, let's talk a little bit about, heading into this game with Snider. They lost some guys on defense. They did, but they seem to be pretty strong in the front 7 again.
They're very strong up front, absolutely. And their linebacker core is
yes,
one of the best in the area.
Yeah, Rohrbacher. You got Rohrbacher,
very good.
Talamentes, who does a little bit of everything, I think, for them. When you go in a game like this, Are you thinking of trying to get your run game going a little bit, or are you thinking we're just going to go with what they give us?
Well, you've got to be balanced. I mean, without
Yeah.
question, whether you buy into the philosophy that you're going to run it to be able to throw it or throw it to be able to run it. We look at, personnel, we look at scheme, we look at what we do, and that we make decisions based upon what we think we're going to be successful doing, both running and throwing the football. And again, that is based upon our scheme, based upon their alignments, their assignments, their personnel. And so, we've got to be balanced. We've got to be able to run the ball as well, because if not, then, they're going to pin their ears back and they're going to come and they're going to put pressure on the quarterback. And so we've got to be able to throw. We've got to be able to run it. We've got to be balanced. We've got to be great defense, and we've got to play great special teams too.
Right. Well, I know on Friday against Luers, they got, that's probably where most of their teams returning, where they've had some pretty good players in their front seven there. What was your thought on that game from a run game standpoint? Were they trying to take that away from you mostly? That was, throwing you into situations where you had to find ways to move the football, or was it what was that game
our
mindset?
Our mindset in that game was we essentially came down to running two run plays continually over and over. One was inside zone, and then the other is cat, which is a tackle pull, where the quarterback's going to read the backside. But those are our two main run plays that we're going to continually run. And we look to the front that we're giving, and the quarterback is going to check things at the line of scrimmage based upon the front that he's seeing. So it boils down to those two run plays, mix in a couple other things, run pin and pull to the perimeter, and then we're going to throw the football. We're going to throw it a lot. We're not going to be, shy about the fact that we like to throw. We like to play 4 wide. We like to be in 10 personnel a lot.
Right.
And we want to get the ball vertical down the field.
Well, you got a pretty good core nucleus of wideouts, correct? Yeah. Yep. Who in that group do you really think is a guy that is kind of maybe your go-to guy, or a guy that you rely upon quite a bit on the outside?
Well, I tell you what, they all did a tremendous job on Friday night. Cam Hirschberger, Cooper Rudolph. We got Jaden Hill as a transfer in from Luers, and has contributed an immense amount. Gabe Starks and Hanson Hafner really are those 5 guys that you're seeing on the field all the time, and they all run well. They all catch the ball extremely well. They all have great relationships, and Jimmy spread it around to each of them, an equal amount. So, I mean,
Yeah, I thought he completed about 60% of his passes Friday night.
Yep, at 60%. Yep.
Yeah, and I think one thing, when you're completing 60% of your passes, you're right in the very good category. It used to be if you were throwing 50% back in my day, you were an All-American. Nowadays, if you're not throwing 60 to 65% completion percentage, you're not very good. That's the problem
exactly
with
right.
The spread offense has created that, because the idea of it is get the ball in and out of your hands quickly, get the ball in space, and let your kids go play. Yeah. When you look at Snider's defense, particularly of their secondary, what's your thoughts on their secondary this year? I know a couple years ago, that's probably one of their weakest spots, but how do you feel about their secondary now?
I think it's much improved. It really is. They've got some very good players. They Logan, who's a young guy, but he's playing at safety, and he's a tremendous player as well. And they've got some guys that can play. And, it is not a weak defense. It is a defense that is stout up front, that has great linebackers, and has talent in the secondary that can run after the ball. What we have to be is we've got to be efficient. We've got to be able to get rid of the ball on time. We've got to pass protect up front. We've got to recognize, whether they're going to play an underfront or an overfront. And we've got to protect the quarterback. And if we protect the quarterback, we're confident that he's going to make good decisions. Week one for Jimmy was a sophomore first time that he ever started a varsity game. And, that's pretty good if that's your first start, and everything, we hope everything just gets better from here.
Did you come out healthy on Friday night? How was
yeah,
good?
Fortunately, we did. Yep.
Well,
Nate
I think
starts cramped up a little bit, but that not due to injury, probably due to hydration as much as anything, and just the heat and everything, and he expends a lot of energy. Nate's a tremendous running back. He's not very big, but he is electrically fast, and he's going to be the guy. And we continue to love what he does. We just got to take care of him and make sure that he is, drinking right and getting hydrated and taking care of his body.
Yeah.
Well,
Carroll,
Steely's
head coach.
another. Go ahead. I was going to talk about the Steely kid because I think he's another player for you guys that I think is electrifying because he can turn a game in a moment. He did that last year, decided to open up the stadium with a 95-yard kick return for a touchdown. I don't think you can top that at all, but what does he like to be around as a kid? Because he's like one of those guys that, man, it'd be fun to coach.
He really is. Braden is a tremendous kid. I mean, not only do I get the opportunity to coach him on the field, but I have him in the classroom during the day, in geometry, and love being around him. Love his brother as well. Great family. And he is a gamer. When the lights go on, it is time to go, and he is electric fast. He can blaze, and he is a tremendous special teams player. He is a tremendous linebacker, that we can roll down, and play him in the box at the same time because he has physicality to him. He was nursing an ankle injury that happened, in camp over the summer, and so he did not play week 1. But he is cleared, and he's going to be healthy, and he's going to play against Snider. So we're glad to have him back. We're glad to have him, almost at full health. So
go ahead, there, dude. We'll talk about the defensive side and Snyder's offense. It also gives you a little bit of Pepto-Bismol moments.
Yeah. One of the things, Coach, in the offseason, obviously the tragic loss of Owen Sheely, and that's kind of been part of this program, and it will be going forward. That first week and getting to that point and getting your team ready, just talk about the offseason that was and the team, fighting through that adversity, coming together, and really how this season will become one for Owen.
Well, June and July, as I said, were tremendously difficult months for us. There is no more tragic event than, a 17-year-old kid losing his life. And, it happened so fast, diagnosed on Sunday, passed away on Tuesday. And it left us in shock, in doubt, and in question. But we continued, and the kids, stayed together and worked together and communicated together, and we will continually, remember him, remember his spirit, and you'll see some of that on Friday night, in tribute to him and his family as well. So I mean without question, very difficult, and there were emotional moments, on Friday night, when it came up, but it's going to continue. It will. I mean, it's, the two things that you learn, are, and we all know this, the two things are that life is very frail, and can't be taken from you in the heartbeat,
right.
And then the second thing is that, life doesn't stop either, and it's going to continue to push forward, and you have to embrace things, and you have to work forward, and you have to move forward, and you have to prepare, because you can't quit.
Yeah, and talk about Friday night, Coach. The orange out for Owen, kind of the student body, the entire community at Carroll coming together for what is all going on with that on Friday night that people going out to the game can expect with the orange out for Owen.
Orange out. They sold a bunch of T-shirts. I don't know the exact number, but it's in the neighborhood of 1,500 to 2,000 T-shirts, and the profits are going to the Owen Shaley, Foundation, which is going to, give scholarship to a senior football player at Carroll, as we move forward. And Snider also is contributing, to a fund. I won't state it properly and name it properly, but it's a youth, childhood leukemia fund, through the NFL, I believe, and they're going to donate money to that as well. So, I mean, what we hope is just to remember, to embrace, to pay homage to, and that's what the whole year is going to be about. So, you'll see different events, throughout the year, to where, whether it be, events such as this or, senior night things, where we're going to remember and we're going to pay tribute to him.
Certainly.
No
Coach.
question. Now, looking at Snider's offense, you talk about your offense and what it brings to the table. Now you've got a Snider offense that has a quarterback that has the most starts, I think, of any Snider quarterback in the history of the program.
Going into his senior year, his senior year, he's got more starts going into his senior year than any. I mean, I remember when we were there, I mean, there were some dudes, that played a couple years back to back,
right.
Marcus Heminger played, 2 14-game seasons in a row. But in the long run, after all is said and done, Luke will have, more starts, than anybody in the career. And he's a tremendous athlete. He really is.
Yeah. Yeah. They get that run game going. And the next thing you know, they're play action passing it, throwing over the top,
Right.
That's, and he does that well. But Langston Lavelle creates a problem as well. I mean, he's a big, strong kid, and their offensive line, they operate like a machine with their power game.
Well, first of all, the offensive line is extremely well coached, and they're going to be one of the best coached and best disciplined offensive lines that you're going to see around the area. Coach Isaacs does a phenomenal job. He's got guys coaching with him that played offensive line with him, and so that lineage is strong. And with that goes the run game. They're running the ball extremely well. They're playing a little bit of 21 personnel. I mean, they're going back old school. Playing with the fullback, and they want to get downhill, and that's because of the strength of the offensive line, the strength of the running backs, and the ability of Luke to be able to play action, to be able to run option from underneath center. It presents a lot of different things. I mean, you face so many teams today that are spread, pass the ball, throw the ball around teams, like ourselves, and you get accustomed to playing 8 guys back and rushing 3 or 4, and defending the pass. And if you can't defend the run against a team like Snider, then you're in for a long night.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think this is going to be one of those great matchups that we're looking forward to. It's our game of the week. We'll be out there for the 6 p.m. Parkview Sports Medicine pregame show, but I'm looking forward to watching your kids play. I know it's, the adversity aspect of things is, like you said, that's something that you'll carry for the rest of the year with the positivity of moving forward. And, but we're looking forward to being a part of this night out there at the new stadium, and really appreciate you coming on tonight, and, try to get you back on again. Is that
Absolutely.
all right?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
First of all, I love what you guys do for high school athletics. It's tremendous. I mean, the notoriety, the coverage that high school athletes get here in Fort Wayne is tremendous. We love it. I mean, you all know and appreciate the game, and everybody really appreciates everything you do.
Well, thank you. And we appreciate you taking time out, and hopefully one day we'll get one of your boys on here too, as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of your players. And I know you're going to be busy this year on Saturday. You got kid at Trine playing ball and a coach at St. Francis. So
that's exactly right.
You're going to have a lot of fun.
Manage the minutes, baby. Yep.
Thanks,
Doug
Coach,
Dinan,
for joining us.
Yep.
Thanks for coming on. We'll see you later. See you Friday, Coach.
All right, and from one end of the spectrum to the other in Friday's big game, we move from Carroll and talking to Coach Doug Dinan, and now we bring in and welcome Kurt Tippmann, the head coach for the Snider Panthers. Coach Tipp, thanks for joining us on Upon the Further Review podcast this week. Getting ready for a big one Friday night against the Carroll Chargers.
Yeah, it certainly will be. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's a new deal, and appreciate you inviting me to join.
Sure. Well, let's start, first off with the game that was last week, a barn burner out at Spooler Stadium between Snider and Northside. You guys pull out a 2-point victory. Talk about just coming out of game one, a high intensity game that it was, just what you saw in your guys on Friday night that will help you as you move forward in the season.
Well, game one is always tough because no matter how much you practice during the summer and August, you never can really actually simulate what happens with the intensity and the so-called fray of that Friday night game, and match that with a really quality opponent like Northside. And we had a lot of mistakes, and that's typical of a game one. But the thing that I think we as a staff and as a program can be most proud of and be encouraged by is the intensity and the fight that our kids had. And, you look at that second half, and it was essentially every drive on either side of the ball and every special team snap seemed to be the game's on the line. And I think we will benefit greatly. Both programs will benefit greatly from that experience. Because in a game one, nip and tuck the whole way, every play has a premium on the outcome, determines, the outcome of the game. And I think you learn a lot more from that than you do a lopsided victory. And we were happy with the intensity. We weren't happy with our execution. We had a lot of mistakes, drive killers, and, things that, defensively we have to fix. And but that's typical of a game one. And to come out with a win, I think is, just icing on the cake against what I think is going to be a good team in the SAC conference, Northside.
Sure. Looking, the running game for Snider. Langston Lavelle kind of leading the way, 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, a long 66-yarder there in the first half. But then Al Capone Veazey, maybe the best name in the history of sports right there, comes in, kind of that power back, short yardage, and then took a lot of the carries in the second half. The run game, it always is a big part of Snider football, developing that and developing guys, and what you've been able to see. Just that aspect of it has been huge for your program, and it was Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, we're always going to put a premium on being able to run the ball. And I think defensively, we got to be able to stop the run. And I think having an offense that puts a premium on running the ball, and then, going against each other, our defense that helps us with what our philosophy is defensively, and that's being able to stop the run. I think in high school football, when you get into November and the playoff games, the ones that mean the most, it's going to come down to stopping the run. Novembers in Indiana aren't always conducive to chucking it around the park, and we got to be able to run the ball. We got to be able to defend the run. So it all starts with those guys up front, and that's always going to be what we start with offensively. But we also want to be balanced, and we weren't balanced Friday night. We just, we failed to execute some things in the passing game that put us in holes. The first half went according to plan. The second half, we just had some drive stallers. We had a couple first down penalties. We had a couple mishaps with a snap. Things that put us in a hole that makes it tough to get out of in game one. And so, we'll be more balanced down the road. We have a very talented group of receivers that we need to get the ball to, because those guys, are very capable with the ball in their hands. And Luke is very capable of distributing it and getting it to those guys. But the running game is going to be what we so-called hang our hat on. And I don't think that'll be any different this year's Panther version.
Sure. Snider coach Kurt Tippmann joining us upon further review. On the defensive side, I mean, all eyes kind of look at Tay Johnson, the star receiver for Northside. You guys were able to hold him to just 4 catches for 53 yards and a touchdown. Just talk about just overall kind of the aspect of the defensive aspect for that, and just kind of keeping him in check, and what you were able to do on the defensive side against him.
Well, we sat in the defensive staff room, and I'll be honest, we talked about all the things we wanted to do. And one very bright coach said, we may want to begin everything with stopping number 3. So, it sounds sometimes as coaches you make things too difficult, but we had to start everything by working around their best player, and he is their best offensive player. But the thing that makes Northside tough is they have some other very, very capable guys. Their running game, I think, is really, really good.
Yeah.
Their offensive line was physical. They don't do a lot of different scheme, but what they do, they fire off the ball and they come at you. And the Lambert kid is very, very good. He's shifty, but yet runs really hard, and runs their scheme very well. And then, what hurt us at times was the quarterback just saying, you know what, I'm going to tuck it and run it. And he hurt us early in the first drive, where he beat us outside on his own read that he decided to keep. And then, some other key places in the game where he dropped back to throw and then basically just said, I'm going to tuck it and run it, and would gain 8 or 9 yards. So, they're very tough to defend because of their versatility and their weapons. I don't think they have the as talented as the number of receivers that they had last year, but all very good, capable guys. And, they'll figure that out to spread the ball out a little bit more to some of those other players. But, everything began with, our game plan was around, making sure we knew where number 3 was.
Sure. Turning the page to this Friday night, a big one. Every week's a big one in the SAC, just the way the schedule is set up. You guys travel to Carroll, two of the 3 SAC champions meeting up. They got you last year in a close one. Moving on, taking from what you learned from week 1 to week 2 in these close battles and applying what will be the emphasis kind of as you break out into your coaches meetings and then implement things throughout the week as you look ahead to Carroll.
Well, I mean, this is always an exciting game. Game 2, get to play another really good opponent, and heck, we get to go over there to the beautiful new stadium and get our first time in there. So we're excited about that. Carroll's always a good program. Like you said, last year, 1-point game, came down to the last drive, and they were able to execute some things better than us. Came out with a 1-point win, but we've had some really close games here in the last couple of years. And it's always a fun game. It'll be a great crowd, very electric atmosphere, and always an exciting time to play. They pose a lot of problems too on both sides of the ball. I think defensively is where they really pop out at you. Put a bunch of fast, athletic guys on the field. Not the big, huge size that maybe some other defenses have, but fast. And to me, that's harder to combat speed than size and strength. And so they're very active, play very good fundamental defense, don't get out of position. And they pose a lot of problems for us on defense. And then offensively, they spread it out. They're very diverse. Guy running the ball he's really quick, kind of elusive, kind of hard to track down. And then the quarterback, is a young guy, but also very talented and has a good arm and can make the throws. And, they have a very good plan offensively. And Coach Poppy does a great job of every year. They come with this game, and it seems like every game we shake hands. And my thought is, man, what a great game plan you guys had, and have a lot of respect for the way they come at us offensively, and always makes it tough to defend. So it'll be a great game, great challenge. And, we always talk to our kids, we're planning on playing the what might be the best team in the SAC. That's what we said week 1, get ready to play what might be the best team in the SAC. Now week 2, get ready to play what might be the best team in the SAC. And that's the way we're approaching this week.
Talk a little bit. You talked about the Carroll's defense, and I agree with you. They're a talented crew. They can run sideline to sideline probably as good as any team in the conference, especially the Dylan Bennett kid. But talk a little bit about Luke Hoppert. Here's a guy that's third-year starter, which is kind of unheard of at Snider High School when you think about it. And how important he is in the grand scheme of things, because like you said, you may not throw the ball a lot. But come this Friday, you're going to play a team that's not going to let you run the football, or they're going to at least try to stop Langston Lavelle. How important does he now become in a game where there's some equal balance on both sides?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think first of all, we're going into the season not saying, Luke, you're going to have to throw the ball in certain games. We want to throw the ball
Right.
with him because he's talented and very, very capable. He can make, in terms of arm strength, he can make all the throws. And then, really talented guys to throw it to. And, 3 senior receivers that came back from, had all playing game experience last year with Kamari, Keydrell, and Jordan Lee, and then a tight end who is a really good weapon in Lincoln Firks. And so those 4 guys, that was who we threw to last year. So they've developed a nice chemistry. And, Luke is the leader of that, in their work together in the off seasons, as well as this summer and August. So he's a weapon. He's a weapon with his feet and, really makes some quality throws and just has a good connection with those kids.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's come to light for us this August and this preseason is, they have a strong connection. They kind of know each other's nuances and they can just look at each other and know we're going to make this adjustment or, make this little, development to this route. And they all seem to be on the same page. So that's encouraging for us and, maybe lightens the load a little bit on some of those teams that are going to want to stack the box and take away the run game. Then to us, that gives us, a lot of things, a lot of options when it comes to Luke throwing the ball.
Yeah, I've loved the kid since I watched him play when he was a young kid. The one thing that stood out to me that I like about him is he's got a little bit of a toughness to him. Just like you said, he's not afraid to duck it and run it up in there. When he knows he has to get a yard, he's going to get 2. Just that mentality that he has that you kind of appreciate the way he handles the huddle. All those things. So I think he's one of those guys that could, Friday night, he could have a lot to say about what's going to happen because he's one of those kids that can make things happen, but smartly, does
Absolutely.
things smartly. So,
and the quarterback position is all about decision making.
Right.
And, Luke, what you can't replicate is 2 years of experience of making those decisions.
Correct.
And, that's what we're looking forward to. He's a competitor, fierce competitor, just like his brother was.
Mm-hmm.
And, loves to compete, loves to be on that stage and in that moment. And with 2 years of experience making those decisions and learning, he's a sponge. I mean, he just wants to learn. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. Let me get better at it. And that's what we're looking forward to with him running the show Friday night.
Then on defense now, I like your defense, especially your linebackers. You got Rohrbacher, which is a familiar name, playing linebacker. And then the Talmente's kid, I think he does a little bit of everything, doesn't he?
Yeah, very versatile. Kicks field goals, kicks
That's
off,
right.
and plays linebacker.
Yeah, kicks field goals and then makes the tackle on the next play. But your front seven's pretty stout, wouldn't you say? I mean, you feel pretty comfortable with what you have up front.
Yeah,
because you took some graduation there.
Yeah, we did, but we don't have that huge guys like maybe we've had in the past.
Right.
But they're 210, 220 pounds and fast and quick. And like I said earlier, as a defensive coach, I like that rather than the guy that maybe is heavier but can't move as well. It just opens up the things that we can do. And schematically, we're doing as much as we've probably ever done, just because of the versatility of those guys up front, and we like moving them. And I think that's harder to block and harder to combat as an offensive coach than though, you got a 280-pound tackle sitting in the B gap. We have some answers to that offensively. It's when you don't know where that guy's going to be or where he's going to go, it just makes it harder. So, yeah, I mean, we like our front. We've had some injuries, that we're working through. We had a little depth going into the season, which we were excited about, being able to rotate guys every 3 or 4 plays to get fresh, people in there. And, we've had some injuries and, we're getting those guys back. So, I think we still have some arsenal to show yet. And then at linebackers, we just want those guys to be active, kind of like what Carroll's doing on defense. We want those guys active and running the field. You know, today's offenses, it's kind of what everybody's doing. They make you defend the field and vertically and horizontally. And, you know, we think we have a type of personnel out on the field that kind of combats that type of offense. So we're excited about it.
Sure. Coach, coming up this Friday night, obviously with Coach with Owen Sheely, the Carroll quarterback, tragically passing away over the summer. You know, a lot of things will be done throughout the year. I know Carroll is having a big orange out for Owen, but also Snider is getting involved this week with pediatric cancer awareness. Just talk a little bit about what Snider High School is kind of planning as part of the game this Friday night as we kind of remember Owen Sheely.
Well, you know, a lot of our kids, and this is what's cool about high school sports these days. These kids work out together in different venues. They compete with each other in some of these 7-on-7 teams, or they may just go to camps together. So there's some camaraderie around the area, not just guys that are on the same team. So we have quite a few kids that played with Owen or worked out with him, or, you know, maybe went to elementary school with him. And, you know, that hit them hard too. We're a program that we've experienced losing a teammate, you know, in our history. And it's just, Coach Dinan and I were together on a staff that lost a player. And so I know what they're going through, and, you know, we've reached out, you know, certainly this summer, but our seniors came to me and wanted to do something. As soon as, you know, that happened this summer, they wanted to do something with meaning, not just, you know, where, you know, they didn't want to do something trite and trivial. They wanted to do something of meaning. And so our state coaches association has a partnership with the NFL's Crucial Catch, which is another foundation that's working to fight childhood cancer. So our entire student body has got around this. We are doing a campaign to raise money for childhood cancer research through the Crucial Catch and the American Cancer Society. We started it the first week of school, and we'll continue it, you know, this week leading up to the game Friday. And then we want to present to the Sheely family on Friday night and to Carroll High School a donation in Owen's name to the Crucial Catch Foundation. And, you know, we're going to have some other special things that we do in memory of him. You know, really his coming out party was last year in our game. I mentioned this earlier, but they had the final drive, got the ball in their hands. We had gone up by a touch or maybe 5 or 6 points. And then they got the ball back with, you know, 4 or so minutes left, and he led them down the field and a great drive, made some huge plays on that drive, a couple fourth down plays that he made completions and got him in the end zone with just a few seconds left. And, you know, that was kind of his deal. So, you know, we have great memories of him. Don't know him personally other than through the game of football and our workings, you know, here and there, but I've heard nothing but great things about him. So we wanted to honor him and do it in a way that both teams and programs could share in it. And, you know, I hope it's something special for him and his family and the Carroll team on Friday when we go there. And, you know, it's our intention to honor him that night.
Yeah, and a lot of information about that on the Snider football social media channels, their Facebook page. We have the information on our screen right now for those watching the Upon Further Review podcast. But if you're listening to the audio, just take a minute to go out to the Snider football Facebook page, and they've got all the information there about how you can donate, how you can contribute. The blue out for the away fans from Snider out at Carroll, and more about that program and certainly how you can contribute to that. And it's a nice gesture, certainly from the Snider faithful. I'm a Snider alum, and to see that, it really makes you feel good. And actually live in the Carroll district now, so to see those two communities coming together and beyond football, we talk about a lot of times, but for pediatric cancer awareness and research and memorializing Owen Sheely in that way, certainly a nice gesture and should be a beautiful evening for that as well. Well, Coach, I we appreciate you coming on this week on Upon Further Review to kind of break down your game with Northside last week and then look ahead to the Carroll Chargers. And we appreciate you coming on, and hopefully we can have you on later on in the season.
Yeah, I'd love to join, and thanks for doing this. This is, talk to a lot of coaches around the state, and we are very fortunate in the Fort Wayne area that get the coverage. Our kids in this area get the coverage that they do from all kinds of groups. Griff, you've been doing this for a long time, and really appreciate all that you guys do. And Eric, same thing. And, it's a great experience for high school kids to play football in this area because in a large part due to the coverage that they get. It's really pretty unique and pretty cool.
Well, we'll be there Friday night. I'm looking forward to that one. So we'll be there with our shoelaces a little tighter, ready to roll. But thanks, like Dude said, thanks for coming on. Maybe we'll get a kid or two next time to come on as well and talk to some of the players. But good luck this Friday night.
Thanks, guys, and thanks for having us on. We'll love to join you down the road.
All right. Thanks, Coach. That was head coach Kurt Tippmann from Snider High School joining us here on Upon Further Review podcast. And, I tell you, Shannon, that's one of the big ones. Obviously, this Friday night, we'll certainly be there for 7 hours of coverage on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM. Of course, the Parkview Sports Medicine High School football pregame tailgate show first, and then the kickoff with you and Brett in the booth. And just one of the many games that is going on this Friday night that has a little bit more attention now. Looking through the other SAC, some of the games that are going on there this weekend. We start Homestead and Concordia. That's one, Coach, where Homestead gets a big win. Concordia gets a big win. They're
Right.
under Coach Manigal again. 3 touchdown passes from Eli Maddox. It's Maddox to Washington. Sounds like a Senate campaign, but that's exactly what the what the Concordia Cadets were doing on Friday night against Southside.
Yeah, and this game also could be a pretty good game from the standpoint of you got two teams that are coming off wins, so they've broken that barrier, and they both have confidence. So this could be a pretty good ball game, and it's at Concordia. So I don't think the Spartans should take the Cadets too lightly.
Sure. Another one, Luers and Wayne. Luers bad loss on Friday night, 42-3 against Carroll. Wayne showed some promise against Bishop Dwanger, which, maybe we aren't surprised there again that Dwanger pulled out the victory, but I think Wayne stayed in it for a while. Lamarian Nelson, another 200-yard night. This might shake out to be a little bit better game than maybe we thought in July.
Yeah, and I think, we talked about this before with Coach Haydock. I think he's feeling a little bit more comfortable with the personnel that he has. Lamar Nelson, of course, is a kid that means a lot to their offense. And I think he showed again on Friday night why. He's a phenomenal football player. Dwanger, they lose Bo Dickerson. That was a big question mark for me going into the game, but they didn't miss a beat at all on Friday night at the quarterback spot. I mean, I think what was it, 300 and some yards he threw for? He just jumped right in there and took off and, made things happen.
Sure. And looking else at the schedule, as we call moving the chains into week 2, our third game, another game on the list is Southside at Northrop. Coach, two teams that, have struggled the last several years. Somebody's going to get a win in this. Quentin Bowen is the new coach at Northrop. They trying to get his first career win as a head coach, and Tiny Lee, who apparently was not on the sidelines for the game on Friday night. Not exactly sure what that was all about, but my understanding was he was not there. So not really sure if he'll be back on the sidelines this coming week. We certainly wish the best for him, but two teams that really need a win for their program.
Yeah, no question. And just to go back there 1 second, Sam Campbell is the gentleman's name that did all the good things for Bishop Dwenger at quarterback. He was played wide out, but he stepped in and did a great job of moving ahead. But, Southside and Northrop, again, Northrop has a lot of things to clean up. I think they still have some talent that eventually will, if they get it rolling, and the quarterback position can be settled, they've got some ability there. And I think I like the defense. I think the defense is not as bad as it may seem because of the score on Friday. But I don't know what happened at Southside with Coach Lee. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. And he's able to get back out there this Friday night.
Sure. We touched a little bit on Dwenger at Northside, Bodie Dickerson against his old team. Those are always fun games too, because really, Northside, we talked about it on Friday night on the Parkview Sports Medicine High School Football pregame tailgate show. They're top heavy on the schedule. Snider, Dwenger, Carroll, the first 3 weeks for Northside. So it is very important for them to, I would think, have to get at least one win out of the first 3 to stay in the SAC conference race.
Well, you hate to think that after 2 weeks, your season could, as far as being a champion, is on the line Friday night. But it's very difficult to win the Summit Athletic Conference with 2 losses. But you know what? With the parity that there is at the top, it's not unheard of from that standpoint. I thought last year Northside let the first game beat them too many other times. Here's a game that probably on paper they should fare pretty good, but they got to prove it, and they got to prove it on the field. It can't be talk. It can't be black and white and statistics and all that stuff. You got to prove it in between the white lines, and they're going to have to beat on a very confident Dwenger team. At being at Northside is going to help them, being that it's a home game. But you heard the respect that Coach Tippmann had for him. He just doesn't throw out, pats on the back just for the sake of a pat on the back. He was really impressed with the way Coach Johnson handles his team and what they do. So, schematically, they've got the ability to be pretty darn good.
Yeah, and I know you talked about, it'll be deep up at Chambers Field. I know they're planning a blackout. Northside is. It's going to be a big one there on Chambers Field. And Coach, another one that, is not in the SAC, but really might be the best game of the night outside of Carroll and Snider, depending on where you live in the kind of Northeast Indiana and what you feel about it. But Adams Central and Eastside face up again. It was a barn burner last year. I think it came down to 2 points. Adams Central's only lost until the state finals. And then Eastside, ran the table until late in the postseason there. This is a fun one from a team way up north and a team way down south. The out-of-conference matchup that really a clash of styles in years past with Laban Davis. But Laban Davis isn't there anymore, so this should be an interesting one for everybody.
Yeah, I talked to, Coach Mason during the media day, and he felt fairly confident with what he had coming back, that while they're not going to have the Laban Davis, running around like they're accustomed to, but he felt like they had a good nucleus of kids coming back. So this will be a really good ball game. I think this one, like you said, has an intriguing asterisk by it because two styles very different, wishbone versus spread. It'll be an interesting game. And I say that down there at Adams Central, it's going to be a packed house.
Yeah, and I think looking at their first 2 games, Adams Central put up 56 on Garrett, beat them 56-6, and then Eastside beat Woodland 50-24. So big points from both teams. It would be interesting to see how that goes. And of course, that's just one of the many games we'll be talking about this Friday night, Coach, as we kind of look ahead. 7 hours of coverage on 1380 The Fan and 100.9, a great partners of ours. Snider at Carroll is the game of the week, the 1380 game of the week on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Pregame starts at 6, live from Carroll High School. Join the coach, Shannon Griffith. We have Jim Shovelin and myself on the pregame show, leading you up until kickoff at 7 o'clock, where Brett Rump and Coach will take over. And then, of course, join us for the post-game show with all the scores and highlights and talking about interviews with other coaches live from the Pine Valley Pizza Hut. You can listen to that on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM, 1380thefan.com, or just say 1380 in your smart speaker and find it that way. So, Coach, another big slate of Friday night games coming up this week, and it should be a fun one. And what we've started to see pan out this year.
Yeah, we're going to have this, I think, all year just because the parity that we've seen over the last couple of years, and the conference race will be tight. The team's playing on Friday night. You can't win it on Friday, but in some ways you can lose it because you could all of a sudden, if you get one loss, you become the chaser, the guy that's trying to chase the team that's up top. But we'll have a good game. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm glad football season's here.
Yeah. And of course, you can follow us on all of our social media platforms on Facebook and YouTube. Just search for Upon Further Review SAC. And we're on Twitter now as well. Just search at UFR_SAC. You probably can find it by just searching Upon Further Review SAC as well. So, we post our videos there. That's a great place to listen to the podcasts. To watch the podcast, to see what's going on. We'll post different segments, get you ready for Friday night as things pop up throughout the week. And just another way to touch base with all the coaches and teams and players across. And of course, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts as well. And Coach, my understanding is we're going to be able to start having some of these episodes on 1380 The Fan on Wednesday nights as well.
Yeah, there's a possibility that could happen. And I know that they're going to at least have our logo on the podcast page. Even that is a very beneficial for us. And like you said, any podcast platform we're on, Anchor FM is one of them, but Spotify, Apple, you name it, we're on it. So we better get some rest and get ready for this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that'll do it for another episode of Upon Further Review podcast. For the coach, I'm Eric Dudkevich, better known as Dude. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you Friday night at the games. Have fun wherever you're going, and we'll see what happens, and we'll see you next week. Have a good night, everyone.